Hey everyone, that was really awkward. Yeah, I still hate doing these, but yeah, I didn't want to be on camera today. So we're just gonna do it this way where I can actually see my notes just to make it a hell of a lot easier. But we are reviewing a trippy book. Um, it had me confused towards the end, but it had me guessing up until the end, and I managed to finish the whole book, so that's a good and positive. Um, I haven't put a rating on this, but I think I'm gonna give it like 4 stars. I liked it. I liked the cover of the book. I liked the writing style. The chapters were really short, so it was like it kept there was enough to like keep you going. Just because I struggle with books that have massive, massive chapters. And this is told through like police interviews type things, so there's not like loads and loads of detail, which was really nice. But this book is called "Tell Me What Really Happened" by Chelsea. I'm not going to pronounce her second name because I don't want to butcher it, but this is the author of The Hundred Lies of Lizzie Lovett and As You Wish. Um, this is my first book by this author that I'm reading, and I'm quite pleased with this one. So, if she does any more work in the future, I will definitely be willing to pick it up. This is a YA mystery. I wouldn't really call it a thriller. It's just a YA mystery. It's 399 pages, so it's really not that long. Bearing in mind that it's told through police. Sorry, bear with me. When it's told through police interviews, so I will read the inner flap. So there are stories about the woods around Salvation Creek and the people who have gone missing there. Now their friend is one of them. It was all her idea. They would get away from their parents and spend the weekend camping down by Salvation Creek. The five of them would make s'mores, steal kisses, share secrets, but sometimes around midnight she vanished. Now the four friends who come back are under suspicion, and they each have a very different story to tell about what happened in the woods. The clock is ticking, what they are hiding, who is lying, dark truths must come to light if their friend is to be found. Told entirely through first person police interviews, this riveting YA mystery asks what really happened that night. Um, and on the back, it doesn't really have a blurb, it just has like a bit of text taken from the book. So I'm not really going to read that because it doesn't really count. But this is a story about 5 characters, I believe. There's Maylee, John, Abigail, and Petra. So four, yeah, four of them. Sorry, I got that wrong. Our main character Maylee is basically dead. At this point of everything being told through police interviews with flashbacks and stuff. So Maylee's definitely the main character, but obviously she's dead as well. So it's mainly revolved around her and how she ended up dying, how she went missing and stuff. Um, so I'm going to talk about a little bit of the characters because they did all give off a. The other thing that the author did really well with this is that she gave each character like a personality. So, for example, Nolan's is into Bigfoot and stuff like that, and he's obsessed that throughout the story, Bigfoot is mentioned a hell of a lot through this book. We have John, who is a black character, which is nice. We also have a bit of pride in here as well, because Maylee and Abigail were in a lesbian relationship at one point, so that was nice to kind of read girl on girl relationship. So we have a bit of that, and obviously John is a black character, and the rest are white. John doesn't like guns; he's completely against them and against violence, and he went through something that we'll talk about where he was made to have so much judgment and hate towards him because obviously his skin color and the fact that there was an accident. And then we have Abigail, who's a bit like, she's a bit of a good girl, doesn't really do naughty things, kind of things like that. And she was completely in love with Maylee, and she tries to please Maylee and never really go against her. Petra is more of outspoken, kind of diva, um, well organized, well planned. Is the boss basically of the group, and she kind of gets them through what they're going through. So Maylee is dead, and her friends are giving statements regarding what happened that night. Nolan saw a thing creature that was eating Maylee, but Abigail saw John with Maylee's blood on his hands. So this is like our cold opening. But we don't know why Maylee has died. We don't know what she actually died of. Um, and obviously Bigfoot is mentioned a lot by Nolan. He's obsessed. And it made me question that I was thinking that maybe actually there is like going to be a Bigfoot story behind this, but it was just all like to give the character like some personality and stuff like that. It's revealed that Nolan is talking to someone called Dave from NACRO. Dave reveals a few months ago that a girl disappeared in the area. So a lot of people, especially girls, have disappeared around Salvation Creek. Um, and they don't know why and kind of stuff like that. And Dave is like part of the group who records stuff like Bigfoot sightings and things like that. And also Nolan has like a thermal imager type thing, which is kind of cool that he takes with him on the camping trip. We then find out that John is Maylee's girlfriend, so Maylee is actually bi. Um, and the police ask everyone in a group who bought a gun, which everyone has handled at some point in the group. So um, I think if I remember correctly, the gun was Maylee's father's gun, I think, something like that. And the cabin belongs to Abigail's father. The group is talking about the disappearance of all the past girls, but Nolan is talking about every disappearance, especially with Jenna, with the dates of different disappearances of 1933, 1903, 1972, etc. So there's been a lot of things that have happened around Salvation Creek, um, with other people disappearing, and Nolan is kind of suspicious of that, and Bigfoot gets mentioned a lot in this. Nolan and the rest of the group are questioned about the footprint that Nolan has found. They realise that the footprint is not a human footprint. Nolan, being a conspiracy theorist, thinks it's an unnatural being. The group are then questioned about John, if he had possibly hurt Maylee, but everyone says and thinks he wouldn't hurt Maylee. So again, John is through a previous accident where him and someone called Andy, with Andy driving, crashed a car, and Andy ended up in a coma, and basically John got the blame for it, that he was driving when he wasn't, and that basically ruined John's life through receiving so much hate and backlash from it. And finally, when Andy wakes up from his coma, he then admits that he was the one driving, not John, but obviously the damage has already been done. Um, so we have a footprint that gets mentioned in the book, and this is the only time this footprint is addressed. It's not addressed ever again in the book, as far as I'm aware. Um, but yeah, that got a bit weird. But obviously, I think that was more there for Nolan's character and stuff. The group talk about how Maylee was obsessed with taking pictures and wanting to be an influencer on social media, and how Maylee wanted to travel and be famous. Maylee had 5,000 followers and wanted to be bigger. So Maylee is more of a girl where she didn't want a regular job. She didn't want to do any of the work. she wanted her mum to kind of fund some of her life until she got to where she wanted to be on social media. And Maylee's going on a camping trip for one specific reason, and that is literally to fake her disappearance so she could then get famous from it, and then to then come back like a bit scuffed up but alive, which I think in a way is kind of messed up. But some people get really sucked into all this internet stuff and stuff like that. But Maylee loves taking pictures of her out in like different settings and woods and something, and John's taking all these pictures for her. The group are questioned about the cabin they find after Nolan saw red on his thermal imaging. So this is literally the cabin where Abigail's father's cabin owns it, and Abigail and her father every weekend during hunting season would go at the cabin and they would do their hunting. They explore the cabin, but not everyone is keen to explore it. They find food, books, hunting knives, and a fresh bed. Nolan finds an article about a fire at a pizza restaurant that was less than a week ago. And again, that pizza fire at a restaurant that Nolan used to go to a lot never gets mentioned again. I think that was just padding there, just to pad the story out. But once you've read the book, you'll realise that Abigail would have known about the cabin and whose it was, and so would Maylee. So it would only be the other three that would be a bit like, this is a bit weird, a cabin in the woods at Salvation Creek. Maylee and Abigail were in a relationship and was a secret until this group are talking about it while they were playing Spin the Bottle. Nolan is completely and utterly drunk at this point, and obviously bits of truth come out, and this is where I put, oh my god, because then we find out that Maylee and Abigail are in a relationship, which I thought was kind of cool. Because it just adds to things that go on day to day now. A gun is bought on the trip by Petra. So I think it was. No, I think the gun was Petra's now. Maylee finds a gun and lets it off to everyone's attention. The police ask why John is uncomfortable with the gun. John explains that he was in a car accident where his friend Andy was drink driving and crashed a car. Andy ended up in a coma for a week, but John was getting the blame and being accused of driving when he wasn't. Andy wakes up a week later from the coma to find that Andy's confessed that he was driving and not John. So we have all of that, and then we go on to part 2 of the book. It has been confirmed that Maylee has died. The group are updated about her death and are in shock, with Petra being devastated and Nolan saying that it was Bigfoot. Petra asks how Maylee died, and it is revealed from bleeding after being shot in the shoulder by a bullet 5 miles away from camp. Now, her being 5 miles away from camp doesn't make sense until you read the rest of the book. So this book did have me twist and turn up until the end to find out what actually happened. So all we had confirmed at the beginning of the book was that Maylee had actually died. But it wasn't from the bullet wound in her shoulder. And then obviously I've mentioned that Abigail's father owns the cabin. But Maylee found out that Abigail's father owns the cabin, and then they wanted to go on a camping trip for a while, so Abigail could help Maylee and Petra form a plan for her to go missing so she can become a famous influencer. Maylee wants to hide in Abigail's father's cabin. Abigail is willing to help after learning that Maylee's mother is abusing her mentally, allegedly. Petra, on the other hand, is against Maylee's plans with good reason, which is fair enough. I don't think I would do that for my best friend. That's a bit wrong. And then at the end of the book, it is revealed that Maylee was shot by Nolan, but Maylee was chasing after Petra when Petra would not go through with Maylee. Maylee falls in water and then is soaked and then runs into some boulders and died of hypothermia, I think. So yeah, I was very, very confused for the most of it, but it kind of makes sense towards the end. I didn't hate the book. I would definitely keep it. Um, but yeah, I would recommend if you want the YA mystery thriller, something that's quick, easy to read, something that you just want a quick read because you're in a bit of a reading slump, then I recommend this read. Thank you so much for watching, and any subscribe and support would be very much appreciated so I can build my dream channel up. Thank you so much.